Okay, here we go. This month there's a lot of Business Central news because of the 2020 Release Wave 1 update. It looks like there's going to be everything from application updates to modern client updates, all the way to Power Platform updates. And what we've done is we've gone to the Microsoft website for the release, what do they call it, release notes?
Release notes.
Release notes. And we've gone through each one and put a detailed description of what each one is so that you can learn what it is a lot quicker than having to do all this by yourself. So
we're going to go through all of those. There's about 40 primary changes or improvements that are in here. We're going to walk right through all those. And
Right. And I know that, there's been, let's say, limited time to go through them all because really it was just released this morning from what we're doing it. So, Ken, what do you think about any of them so far? How about auto insert recurring sales and purchase lines?
Right. So that's the first one on the list of application enhancements.
Yes.
So we're going to start with going through some application enhancements in here. So what this is there's already recurring, the ability to set up recurring sales lines and recurring purchase lines. And what they've done is they've extended that functionality here so that you can automatically insert those lines into sales or purchase documents when you're creating a new document for a customer. So that customer orders the same thing every time, you can pull in those recurring document lines. And an example is a rent bill from if you have a vendor, your landlord or whoever you pay the building rent to is a vendor, you create that invoice, you can auto default in your expense lines automatically.
So save yourself a little bit of time.
Yep.
Become a little bit
it's
more
the same
efficient.
every month, right? Just makes it much more efficient.
With all the subscriptions nowadays and everything, more monthly payments are the way it is. That's the way to go.
Yep.
So next up, we got enhanced customer and vendor document layout, and this is relevant for anyone using multiple formats for a single type of document.
Yeah. So again, there's an existing feature called document layouts where you can define for a specific customer or vendor which document format do you want the system to use when you print a document for that customer. So they've added some functionality to how that works to kind of streamline that process. They've also added additional options to set up formats for reminders and posted shipments for customers. And on the vendor side, you can do for purchase orders and posted return shipments.
Real nice, real nice. Next up, we got managed direct debit collections and service management. And this is relevant for anyone using service management and direct debit payment methods for customer invoices.
Yep. Again, an extension of some existing functionality. There is a direct debit mandate ID field that you can fill in on the sales orders or sales invoices today to flag that an item is an automated direct debit. And what this does is this extends this functionality to service management. So on a service order, service invoice, and service contract, you now can use that direct debit functionality.
Very, very nice. Let's talk about notify requester about all changes for an approval request, which is relevant for anyone using approval requests on documents within Business Central.
Yeah, and this is really just all about making sure that no matter that any update or change to an approval request, the requester, whoever submitted that approval, they get notified of every change until that final approval is completed.
And that's currently not in Business Central, huh?
No, not automated, not on every single, like you can delegate it, you can, right, there's other things, and they may not get notified on every instance.
Okay, next feature is receive more items than ordered, which is relevant for anyone who creates purchase orders and receives inventory against them where they may need to receive more than what was ordered.
Yeah, some examples would be customers who may, you order, steel, for example, or metal, right? You're going to order 10,000 pounds, right? But the vendor is going to ship you a coil or several coils that may weigh 10,142 pounds. So you want the user to be able to receive that quantity in. So there's some settings now where you can put in a tolerance and determine for which items or vendors you want to enable an over receipt to be done. This is a pretty common thing. Many of our customers who work with inventory often have to over-receive what's on the purchase order, usually because it's a one-off production run, or again, something like, food or metals where there's like weights involved and you can't get an exact weight.
Makes
Like
a lot of sense.
catch weights might be an example they call it.
Nice. Next feature up is revert quantity to invoice when canceling order. This is relevant for anyone who needs to cancel posted invoices.
Yeah, so right now, let's say you have a sales order out there and you have done a partial shipment against the sales order, and you've invoiced it, and now you need to correct that. You invoiced the wrong quantity, so you go to the posted invoice and you hit cancel to basically credit memo that invoice out and reverse it. Well, what has been happening is on the sales order, the quantity invoiced was not getting reset. So you couldn't then go back and re-invoice a correct quantity against that line. So what they've done now is they just added additional logic that says, okay, if you do a cancel, go back to the sales order and undo that quantity shipped, which will then allow the user to re-ship that and invoice that additional quantity again.
Very, very nice. Next feature we have is bank reconciliation improvements, and this is relevant for anyone using the Business Central bank reconciliation functionality.
Yep. This is really about just user interface, it seems. If anyone who has used the bank rec in Business Central, they know that it's kind of difficult to work with because you can only display so many lines of checks or deposits. Right. And so what they've done is they've improved that so that you can display a greater number of bank ledger entries on the screen. And also some additional things to help kind of show your reconciliation differences and things between the transactions. So it's just more about like usability and visibility to the entries within the bank rec page. Make it better, laid out better.
Nice. Next, we got multiple languages. This is relevant for anyone who may need Business Central to operate in additional languages besides the standard language, which I believe is English, well, for U.S. customers anyway.
Yeah, so if you're in the United States, yeah, sure, English would be your default. And this is pretty cool. So what they've done is they're delivering these language packs now, we used to call them, as apps that you can install from AppSource. So for example, if you're in the United States or North America and you need the French language installed or Spanish, for example, you can just install those apps to get the support for those different languages. And I have a link here. There is a link included out here that shows the actual languages that are supported with this.
Nice.
So
we'll include the link in the show notes so everybody can find it and take a look at the language support.
Yeah, there are approximately 20 or so languages that are supported by Microsoft, and then there are some additional languages and translations that are partner supported.
Oh.
So there are partners out there that are responsible or
creating their own app for it,
building their own apps for different languages, and a lot of those are in Asia. So Japanese, Malaysian, and so on. But there is a pretty long list here, probably 15 or 20 also that are partner supported regions.
Wow.
So that there are quite a few languages available.
Very nice. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the features for country and regional, or that are country and have regional availability. And
Yep.
this is relevant for future deployments in specific countries outside of the U.S.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So just basically due to the large demand for Dynamics 365 Business Central online, Microsoft is expanding the availability to cover more countries. So they've been continuing to add more countries and regions over the years. The 6 new countries they're adding support for are Colombia, Croatia, Hungary, Latvia, Slovenia, and Peru.
Hey, we had somebody online the other day asking about when versions are going to be available for the Middle East in the world. So
I guess stay
it's a
tuned.
shame not yet. Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned. Next, talk a little bit about partner acceleration. And it is the API for continuous delivery of the app source apps via Azure Development DevOps services. And this is relevant for partners developing apps for Business Central.
Yeah, so what Microsoft understands that making sure that partners who are developing apps for Business Central can build them efficiently, but also maintain them efficiently going forward is critical. So as partners need to keep up with their apps with new versions that are coming out with Business Central. So by adding these features and functionality using Azure DevOps, these are services that will enable partners who are building apps to implement continuous delivery of their apps to customers running on Business Central online. So maybe not something that directly impacts an end user customer, but what it does is it makes sure that the apps that they're using will be able to be available
and work with new releases and everything.
Efficiently, right?
So the next section we're going to get into is migrations to Business Central Online. This is relevant for existing Microsoft Dynamics customers who are migrating from Dynamics NAV or Dynamics GP.
Yep.
And the first feature is migrate data from Business Central version 14 on premises to Business Central version 15 online.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool because a lot of companies may be upgrading to Business Central version 14 on premise.
Yeah.
And then migrate to the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of use that as a stepping stone. So what this means is that if you've done that and you've upgraded to Business Central version 14 on premise, that if you want to get to the cloud, get to the online version, you'll be able to do that directly from that version 14. Without this, you would have had to upgrade again your on-premise environment to version 15 and then run the migration.
Wow.
So this kind of cuts out a step to make it simpler to ensure that customers can easily migrate to the cloud.
Very, very nice. There's also an enhanced Dynamics GP chart of accounts migration.
Yep. So there's actually let's combine these kind of 4 GP migration tools. So there has been a GP data migration tool for Business Central.
Mm-hmm.
That you can use to migrate that GP data over. And what they've done is they've kind of extended. So the 4 things they've improved here. The first is that when you bring over your chart of accounts from GP, your additional segments are automatically assigned as dimensions on the GL transactions. So and you have better visibility to those dimensions and how those segments were transferred. You also have the ability to choose to only migrate your active customers or your active vendors. So a lot of times, right, if you've been running GP for 20 years, you may have like 1,000 vendors, but only 300 that you actively work with.
Mm-hmm.
So when you migrate that over to Business Central, now you can check a box when you're migrating that says only bring those active ones forward. Right? Why bring over all that old garbage?
Right.
Is what they're trying to eliminate.
Save time.
And then lastly, if you're using inventory data in GP, now inventory data is migrated into Business Central. And this would include your location setup, your on-hand quantities as well, including serial and lot number information if that's included for those items.
Nice.
So these were some pretty significant
Migration tools.
improvements in how that data from GP is migrated
Yes.
into Business Central.
Save a lot of time, a lot of cut back on a lot of errors.
Yeah.
Next, we want to get into some of the features that are going to be included for the modern clients. And this next one is one that I've wondered why it wasn't on there long before, and that is disable export of data to Excel,
Right.
which is relevant for all Business Central users.
Right. Yeah. So you can choose user by user through the setup of a permission set.
Yeah.
Whether control through a permission set, whether or not that user has the send to Excel button in there and can push data into Excel.
Which makes a lot of sense. Should have probably been in there a long time ago.
Right. Yep.
Next, we got enable non-interactive printing with advanced printer selection. And this is also for all Business Central users.
Yeah, so if you've ever chosen to kind of print a document from Business Central, you know that it kind of launches a PDF, and then it's like a multi-step process, basically to send to a printer. And so what this does, this new feature enables direct printing to a printer from the modern desktop clients. So through some setups of printer selections, you can control which printer you want each document to be sent to. So you could, for example, send your sales order confirmations to the customer service printer, whereas your warehouse shipments and pick documents get routed to the warehouse printer. And you don't, it's kind of a single step process where you don't have to go through multiple steps to get it to the printer.
So technically, the print and send function now is truly print and send.
There you go. That's a good way to put it.
All right. Next feature is enhanced mobile accessibility related to device orientation, and this is relevant for all Business Central phone and tablet app users.
Yeah.
And it's also a good one for being more productive in the workforce.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite little idiosyncrasies that they've addressed, which is the fact that if you're running on a tablet or the phone app, if you are in a kind of holding it normally, like a portrait,
like a vertical
style,
mode, I guess, yeah.
up and vertically,
Yeah.
It had less access than if you turned it.
Right, it almost had limited functionality
Right.
being held normally.
And so you're sitting there and you're like, where the heck is that?
Right.
I swear it was right here.
Yeah.
And it's not available. But then you turn it the other way, and then this additional functionality becomes visible.
Yeah, the fact box actually shows up.
Right, yeah. So they've improved that here to make sure that there's the ability to view those features no matter how you're oriented.
I'm interested to see how that's actually going to work out. If it's just going to involve scrolling left to right or whatnot. It's going to be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah.
Next up, we got import profiles and UI customizations, which is relevant for all BC users that have customer-tailored role centers and related pages.
Yeah, so if you go back to the Dynamics NAV solution, or even Business Central on-premise, you have the ability to configure and tailor role centers. So you could go in and create these configurations and tailorings, and then apply those to all the users for that role center. And that functionality has been limited within the Business Central world. And so what this does is this adds that back in. The ability to then, to do some tailoring and then export those changes to save them, and then actually go create it. Maybe you create a new sandbox environment or a new environment, and then you can apply those customizations or configurations within a different environment.
Real nice.
Yep.
So next we have improved load time for pages, and this is relevant for all BC users. And I gotta say that I kind of hope this is true, because I've noticed a little bit of lagging with Business Central as of late. I know a couple of our customers have complained about it.
Yep.
So,
yeah, Microsoft uses the word snappy here, so that users expect the application to be snappy. So technically what they're doing here is the first time a page is open, they're caching it.
yeah.
And this is done, without putting any data or sensitive information on the user's device. But what that means is that future subsequent accesses to that same page will, immediately render much more quickly. That was me snapping to get the data, to improve the performance is what that's all about.
Yeah, and in theory it should work. So we'll see. Next up, we got improvements to data entry, which is also relevant for all Business Central users.
Yeah, and this is the only one on the list that's kind of a little bit of a question mark here, a little bit vague right now. The description just basically says that various enhancements that make typing into fields more predictable and faster, and navigating fields in a list more intuitive and efficient. I think everyone's for more intuitive and more efficient.
Oh, for sure.
So for this one, we'll have to stay tuned, wait until we can get into the preview and see what some of these things are.
Yeah, maybe it'll auto-populate like if you're doing a Google search.
We'll report back what those are.
All right. Next, we got improvements to filters and views on lists, which is for all Business Central users.
Yeah, so you can today. Let's say you want to look at a list of customers that owe you more than $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do is you can create a saved filtered list. So instead of opening all your customers and repeating those filters, you could just save that and say customers over 10,000. So what they've done is they've improved some of the features and access to that and how that works. The cool thing here I saw is that two things. One, if you for some reason get disconnected or reload the page, it works better with those save filtered lists. And the big thing is you can actually save that URL as a browser favorite.
With the filters applied and everything?
Yes.
Oh,
And then just click on that and it takes you right to that filtered view page.
that's pretty nice.
How cool is that, right?
Definitely.
So just something easier. Again, you're on your tablet or some device.
Mhm.
You've got your favorites saved on there. You don't even have to, right?
Just click
go
it, yeah.
open Business Central, find that saved list. You just click on that link and it takes you right to that
Yeah,
URL.
and if you're using that filter a lot, that's great. Next up, we got improvements to pages composed of multiple parts. This is also relevant for all Business Central users.
Yeah, and this is really just it's a little bit technical, but it has to do with how the tools that developers have to implement pages that have multiple parts. Like if you think about a page that has like a header and then a line section, or a matrix section. So it gives us more capabilities to how we develop the layout of those pages.
Right. Next, we got navigate trees more easily, which is also relevant for all Business Central users.
Yeah, so examples here. So what does that mean, navigate trees? Well, there are certain features within Business Central where the system will build an indented structure. An example of that might be your chart of accounts. If you've got kind of begin totals and end totals, and you've kind of built subcategories of accounts, the system will visually indent it. Another example would be your bill of material. You have a multi-level bill of material, for example, to build a bicycle, right? You can go into the item and you can do expand all or collapse all to see on certain views or certain pages all of the different levels. And they call that a tree view. So they've improved the use and efficiency of those tree style pages.
Very nice. Next up, we got unhide parts on a page, relevant for all Business Central users. And I'm curious to find out what this one is.
Yeah, what this means is that if you have hidden a part on a page, so for example, you've hidden a fact box, let's say, from being displayed on a page. The
So you mean
user,
through like your customizations or your
correct, right. So there are certain property where you can say that, okay, I want to have this fact box on this page, but by default, let's make it non-visible or hidden. And currently, if you've done that, the end user does not have the ability to go add that back in to make it visible. It's hidden. So what this does is this allows users to show a hidden part on any page. Right.
Not bad. What if it's just gonna be maybe a little button or something that says show hidden or?
Yeah, so exactly when they go in to personalize their page, they'll see like what those hidden parts are. So and now they'll have the ability to add those back.
Very nice. Next feature that we have on the list is collapse and expand document lines, which applies to all Business Central users.
Yep. So users will be able to collapse the document lines section on a page, basically to allow them to optimize their workspace as they go through a task. So if you want to compare document totals or so on. So
nice. I'm going to get into a little bit of the modern developer tools that have some new updates and whatnot. The first one is AL interfaces. And do you want to talk about all these
Yeah.
individual or?
Yeah, so let's go. We'll kind of list these off here. So the modern developer tools, obviously the target audience for these are Business Central developers, and most of these things are tools that will improve a developer's efficiency or ability to quickly create enhancements or customizations in Business Central. So what the AL interface improvements basically are, so it allows the developers to write code in a way that reduces the dependency on the implementation details, which simply means they can kind of save kind of packets of code and reuse them. So again, making development more efficient going forward.
Sounds like a great feature. Next up, we got application version for. I don't even know this word. How to say it?
Aliasing?
Is that what it is? Aliasing based application, relevant for Business Central developers.
Yeah, this one's pretty technical. Probably it's a little bit over both of our heads, probably. But what this is, I'll just read kind of the description here. Embed applications as well as customized on-premise applications should be able to modify the app.json file of the base application and change the identity of the application extensions, right? So this has to do with building embedded applications and aliasing the Microsoft base application. I don't have an example here to give of what that scenario is, but I'm sure there are some developers out there that are oohing and eyeing.
Yeah, going crazy over it
as we speak. Yeah.
I was almost hoping it was allowing the actual Business Central user to create the extension, change the extension, and upload it themselves.
I think this next developer tool is something that more people can relate to, right?
And that next tool is the Camera Location AL API available in the browser, and this is relevant for Business Central developers.
Right, so you're using your phone or your tablet, which has a camera functionality built in. So now developers will be able to programmatically activate the camera or get the current location through an AL-based API when you're accessing Business Central through the browser. And users do remain in control of their privacy settings and can choose to grant or deny access to the camera or location feature.
Yeah.
Right. So this is kind of cool because we've done this for customers in the past through custom code that we've had to write, which is you have a service technician who's out on site and he's got a tablet and he's servicing a piece of equipment. What he can do is open up a service order, and from that service order we created a feature to launch the camera and then take a picture of a machine that they're servicing or a component that's broken so that someone back at the office maybe can go order that part. Wow. Or they can at least capture the status of what that machine or item looks like.
Very, very nice.
At that point. Other things might be damaged inventory. Customer says something's damaged. They can send you, you can take a picture if you're on site of something that's damaged, right? So there's some capabilities there. And now this is just more standardized. So partners aren't having to custom develop the stuff each time.
Sounds great. Next up, we got Lookup Events and insert event subscriber in code. And this is also for Business Central developers.
Right. Yeah. So what happens is when you create Business Central code, or when Microsoft creates Business Central, right? We cannot modify the standard base code, right? So instead, Microsoft has to create these events, or like hooks, that we can then attach to insert some custom code. Well, a lot of times it's hard to know what events or hooks are available that a developer can connect to. So what they've done is they've added a shortcut in the AL code editor that creates a listing of all of those available events in the code.
Very nice.
And then when you can hit a button to select that event, which will then insert that event at the cursor position in the AL code. So it's kind of like a picker, where the developer can go, okay, what are all the different events within the standard base application that I can connect to maybe I want to insert some custom pricing logic. So I would connect to this pricing event and then insert my code, and it's just a tool to make it easy to embed that code.
Very nice. Next, we got multiple variable declarations of the same type in the same line.
Yeah. So this is how variables get declared, and this is like, true developer talk. But what this does is, it makes it easier for developers to see and declare these variables. So it reduces scrolling, improves readability, and just, again, making developers more efficient.
Next up, obsolete tag and URL properties.
Yeah, so imagine that you're running Business Central and you have created apps over time, and these apps are sitting out there, and then you might change the app or modify it. And maybe as a part of modifying that, you've had to, kind of turn off, so to speak, some of the old code that's there.
Yeah.
So what this really allows you to do is mark the code as obsolete in there, in a more formal way, so that the system understands that code is no longer relevant.
It does recognize it. Next up, we got ability to refactor a field from a table to a table extension. And this is actually relevant for Business Central developers for on-premise customers with customizations to standard tables.
Right. So you're running a Business Central on-premise database, and you have added a custom field to the customer table. Let's call that field region, right? So you've added this region field to the customer table. In the old classic development environment, you actually added a field 50,001 onto the customer table. Well, in the Business Central online environment, that is not allowed, right? So we have to take that region field and we have to transform that into an extension, what's called a table extension, because it's a field linked to a table. This is a new tool that programmatically converts those fields from a table to a table extension without any need to write upgrade code. Wow.
That's pretty good.
Correct. Yep. So this is a big tool that's going to be used
all the time.
Again, to migrate customers towards extensions so that they can get to Business Central online.
Very nice. Next up is onboarding, which is relevant for new Business Central deployments.
Yep. So they just improved the kind of the assisted setup and the wizards that are used to walk new users through the startup process, so they can accelerate their onboarding time and getting familiar with the system.
Nice. We even have a new feature for the Power Platform, which is the Business Central integration with Common Data Service.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about the common data model and common data service on previous podcasts, where you have your Business Central database running online on Microsoft's cloud, and behind the scenes, Microsoft is syncing that data, some of that data, into what's called the common data model. It's unbeknownst to the user,
right?
But what that enables is you to use other Microsoft apps, such as sales or talent, right, or some of the other things out there. And what this allows really is for better integration with customizations. So you can create an extension and more quickly add that extension into the common data model and service, so that custom field can then be used for other purposes. So
nice. We've got some new features for service fundamentals. The first one being resource limits for reports and web service calls. It applies to all Business Central users.
Yeah, so when we say service fundamentals, what we're talking about is the actual service that's running on Microsoft's server for your Business Central environment. Yeah, every tenant, right, kind of has a service that's running, and that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting when you're executing transactions. So by adding resource limits on reports and web service calls, what they're doing is eliminating kind of slowness and hang-ups that might occur if someone wrote some bad code in an app or extension, or some web service call is running that kind of gets caught up. What happens now is it just keeps running. So what this is going to do is put a time limit on that, so that once that time limit is reached, the service or server will automatically cancel that operation.
Which increases performance.
Increases the performance of Business Central Online for everyone.
Right. Yep. Which makes complete sense. Next up, we got the telemetry and application insights for partners, and it's for all partners on behalf of all customers.
Yeah, so what this means is that partners will now have visibility to telemetry, or system recorded information about sign-in attempts. So if there's a failed sign-in attempt for a user, the partner will be provided with the reason in a log that shows what's happening. Also open company if there's failures, so better visibility to help partners support their customers.
So to play devil's advocate on this one, let's just say there's a issue with somebody signing in cloud. I mean, really, what can the partner really do to it? I mean,
so
you're kind of limited. I mean, you can reset a password or something, but...
Well, in the Business Central admin tool, there's access to telemetry data. And what this will do is this basically will provide better visibility to that information.
Okay.
To see that someone's login failed, and then have details of why.
Okay.
So currently, today, we would report, as a partner, we would report that issue to Microsoft. And Microsoft would go look at that data, see what's happening, and then attempt to resolve it. This kind of puts a little bit more capability into the partner's hand.
So we can try to solve it first. Nice. Next up, we got read, scale out, and this is for all Business Central users.
Yeah, and this is last but not least on our list.
This is last.
So, read, scale out. What does that mean?
I could not tell you.
Yeah, right. It's not very intuitive based on the description. But yeah, this is relevant for all users. And so listen to this. What this does is this adds a feature where customers can now choose to run selected reports or queries or web service calls on a read-only replica of their database. This way, these heavy workloads, of the system crunching numbers and creating reports or running queries will not have any impact on the primary database performance. Right?
Nice.
So the fact that I'm a user, I'm going to run this huge report that's got, doing all this number crunching in it. Currently, it does that against the production database. So it's possible there could be a performance impact felt by other users. So what this allows the user to do is say, Microsoft will create a kind of a replica copy of your Business Central database, and when you kick off the report, it'll run it based on that replicated copy of your database. So the users aren't impacted at all based on that. So
Very
this
nice.
is a huge long-term performance improvement, in my opinion.
So, do you happen to have a favorite out of any of these application enhancements or whatnot?
I do. If I look at the list, I've kind of noted a few of them here. So one of them is my receive more items than ordered. Right? So you can receive more items than are on your purchase order.
Yeah,
So that's one of them.
That's really nice.
How about you?
I really like the disable export to Excel, the data, I guess, whatever it is. Let's see.
Yeah.
Disable export of data to Excel.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my favorites. Like I said earlier, I always wondered why it wasn't there from the get-go.
That is
especially
a
in
good
today's-
security feature.
Exactly, yeah. So
Yeah. A couple more I've got is the camera API that's available for the client, because we've done that a few times, and
Right.
I know that we've had to manually, or we've built that and have
Yeah.
to support that. So I know that a lot of people, will like that, and that'll be something that will get used.
all right. So I think that about covers it. Went through about 40 of the new features, every one of them. And next up, we've got our feature spotlight segment. So stay tuned.